Evelyn didn't flinch, she never did, but the sound was constant, insistent, like the past knocking louder than it had in years. The lights of the city smeared into the window pane, yellow and blue and red, like bruises fading underwater. Her apartment was too quiet, too clean, as if no real life had ever happened there. But it had. Just once. One night. One hug. And now 13 years later he was back. The intercom buzzed. Her breath caught. She hesitated a full 5 seconds before crossing the room, barefoot, robes still clinging damp to her skin from the shower she'd forgotten to finish. Her finger hovered over the button. The city behind her, the storm outside, the silence inside, it all collapsed into this one moment. She pressed it. "Come up," she whispered. And just like that, the past stepped into the present. He hadn't changed much. Older, sure, his jaw more defined, the shadow of silver in his dark hair. But that look in his eyes, that same wounded fire. It was like time had skipped a beat and kept running anyway. He stood in her doorway as if it still meant something. "Eve," he said softly. Not Evelyn. Not Miss Drake. Just Eve. Like only he ever called her. Gabriel, she breathed, and the name was both a balm and a burn. They didn't speak for a long moment. He stepped inside. She closed the door behind him. The air between them pulsed with unsaid things, heavy as the clouds outside. "I didn't think I'd see you again," she said, folding her arms, trying not to shake. "I wasn't supposed to come back," he said. "Then why are you here?" He looked at her like she was the question and the answer all at once. "Because that night still haunts me." She swallowed. Her throat felt too small. Her chest too tight. Mine too. 13 years earlier. Lakefield County, fall. Evelyn was 24, ambitious, sharp, and restless. She'd taken the cabin upstate to write her first book, at least that's what she told herself. The truth was she was running. From a man she almost married. From a life she almost chose. From herself. The cabin was old, creaky, filled with the scent of pine wood and faded memories. She liked the isolation. Until a storm knocked the power out and she drove into town to seek help. That's where she met Gabriel. He was working at the garage, but he didn't belong there, any more than she belonged in that town. He was an artist, she'd learn later. One who had stopped painting. Haunted by something he never talked about. But his eyes, God, those eyes. They saw her. Not the curated version. The real her. The restless, broken, searching her. They only spent 3 days together. 3 nights. Talking. Sitting in silence. Walking under falling leaves. Nothing happened physically, but everything happened emotionally. On the last night before she left, it rained. They stood on the porch of that creaking cabin, staring at each other like they were afraid to speak. And then he hugged her. It wasn't just an embrace. It was something sacred. Like he was holding every broken part of her together and she was doing the same for him. No kiss. No goodbye. Just that one hug. And it lasted forever. Back in the present, Evelyn sat on the edge of her couch, knees drawn up. Gabriel paced slowly as if afraid to touch anything. Or maybe he just didn't want to leave a mark. "You're married," she said, more a statement than a question. "Was," he replied. "Divorced 2 years now." "I didn't know." He looked at her with a pained half-smile. "We weren't exactly keeping in touch." "No," she looked down at her hands. They trembled faintly. He noticed. "Why now, Gabriel?" "I got an invitation to your book launch." Evelyn blinked. "That was 3 months ago." "I stood outside the building," he confessed. "Watched you through the window. Couldn't go in." "And tonight?" He exhaled deeply. "I got tired of running from ghosts." There was a pause. She stood and walked to the window, her silhouette framed by the glow of headlights and distant thunderclouds. "I wrote about you," she said. "That hug. In my second novel. You know that." He nodded slowly. "I read it." And he crossed the room, stopping just a breath behind her. "I felt it again." The silence between them was thick with memory. She turned slowly, her eyes meeting his, vulnerable, searching. "What do you want from me?" His voice broke. "A second chance." They spent the night talking. Really talking. About what came after that hug. How Evelyn went back to the city, published her first book, dated the wrong men, built a life made of noise and distraction. How Gabriel went back to painting, then stopped, then married someone who never really knew him. There were no accusations. Only quiet revelations. I never forgot you, she said, curled up under a throw blanket. But I told myself it wasn't real. That I'd imagined the intensity. That I was just projecting. You weren't, he whispered. I've carried it, Eve. Every day. That feeling. That night. I never let it go. The look in his eyes stripped her of years of armor. And then there was silence. But the kind that healed, not hurt. 2 weeks passed. Gabriel stayed in the city. Rented a studio nearby. Started painting again. Evelyn visited once hesitantly. Then again more freely. They shared coffee. Shared silences. Shared the ache of old wounds and the thrill of cautious beginnings. There was a sensual energy that hummed between them, always unspoken. Their hands brushed over coffee cups. Their eyes lingered too long. Their conversations carried layers they never fully unwrapped. It was slow. It was everything. But it couldn't stay untouched forever. The past, like a shadow, returned. One evening, Evelyn walked into his studio and found a canvas turned backward. Something in her gut twisted. What's this one? She asked. He hesitated. It's something I've been avoiding. She pulled the canvas around. It was her. The night of the hug. Rainfall. Her soaked hair. The way her arms wrapped around him and his eyes closed like he was trying to forget the world. Her heart stopped. I painted it that same week. After you left. She looked at him, eyes wide. You remember it that clearly? I never forgot it. Something inside her cracked open. You kept this all these years? He stepped closer. It kept me. Their eyes locked. And this time the hug wasn't silent. It wasn't goodbye. It wasn't fleeting. It was everything they never said, all poured into one collision of hearts. He held her like she was both the question and the answer, and she held him like the world might fall if she let go. They kissed. Finally. And it was gentle, reverent, like touching something sacred. No desperation. No hunger. Just surrender. But healing isn't linear. A month later, Evelyn found herself pulling away. Not out of doubt, but fear. I don't want to lose myself, she confessed one night. You're not, Gabriel said. You're finding yourself. But the truth was, being seen so clearly frightened her. She'd spent so long hiding in accomplishments and cleverness that being known, really known, felt like standing naked in a storm. I need time, she whispered. He nodded. I'll wait. They didn't speak for 2 weeks. Then she showed up at his studio again, rain-soaked, trembling, unsure. I'm scared, she told him. I am too, he said. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. That night they lay in bed, not touching, just being. Breathing in sync. Their fingers intertwined like roots under the earth. There was no performance. Just presence. Healing. Love. Years later, they'd tell people they reconnected by chance. At a book event. At a gallery. The story changed depending on the audience. But in their hearts, they knew the truth. It all started with that hug. That one moment of raw, unfiltered emotion. And it lasted a lifetime.